Hi. Well, my name is Arnold Cronk, and I'm here to be interviewed. The airport took quite a while getting me. They made me take 2 tests, and then they sent me away to the University of North Dakota before they let me get in an airplane. And then I came back to California and started flying at 29 Palms, and the old Stearman trainer. And I wasn't a first class pilot. I had trouble with the Stearman, so but I never ever wrecked one, and that's more than some of my students friends did. But it was a lot of fun flying that airplane. I learned a lot, and it'd be real cold down there in the morning and real hot in the afternoon. But we went from there to Merced, to basic, and that's where we got into an airplane, with a big radial engine, 450 engine. He sat in the front seat and all that sort of thing. And that was starting to be fun flying then. And we did a lot of cross-country work, and then we started flying formation. And I loved formation flying. Whenever I got a chance to go formation flying, I went formation flying. I love to fly formation. But from Merced, we went to Douglas, Arizona, and we flew the AT-10. That was the pre-People 38 plane. It was a real hot airplane, and took a little doing to fly, and I enjoyed flying it. But during that time, we were in the Air Corps. They made a P-51, and P-51 come along and kind of run the P-38 out of business. So when we graduated, none of us got a P-38 assignment, and we all went to South Carolina to a B-25 school, but they didn't have room for us, so we were there 2 months, and finally they took 50 of us without any training of being overseas or anything. They shipped us overseas, and we learned to fly in combat. Our instructors flew a mission in the morning, and in the afternoon they were instructing us on how to fly B-25. Or if they flew in the afternoon, they did it in the morning. And it worked out great, and my instructor is over here at March Air Force, near March Air Force Base. He's in assisted living. Lee Russell is his name. Wonderful guy. He was a captain then, and I flew my first 4 missions with him in combat. And I found him in a newspaper years later, and then we got together, and we used to get together once a month and have dinner, and we just don't anymore. We've both been crippled up, so we don't get together. His daughter just called me, and she's got something going, I don't know what, but Lee was the greatest pilot I ever flew with. I mean, he was just so precise on everything, and he was a wonderful leader. Because with a leader, if he doesn't fly a nice even course, you got somebody in the back going like this on a throttle, because it magnifies as you get back, And so everybody loved to fly with Lee's. And in fact, Lee led the mission that took down all the French ships down in South France. They were going to move them, and we told them not to move them, and they started to move them, and we went out of there. Lee led the mission. I wasn't on it. They sunk every one of them. But I enjoyed flying the 4 missions that I flew with him, but I wanted to get my own airplane, and I wanted to fly some formation. When you're in a lead airplane, you're not flying formation. So I started flying with different people and this and that. And then I learned a lot by flying with different people, too. And each one of them has his own way of doing things. Well, the first thing we did with the B-25 was you opened the cowl flap and looked up in there and looked to see that the sump plug was safetied in. You didn't want the oil to fall out of it, you know. And then we pushed the props through to get the oil out of the bottom cylinders. And we got in and, pilot, co-pilot, and the pilot goes through his stuff, and the co-pilot goes through his little bit of stuff he has to do, and then the pilot will ask you holler all clear, and then we start the right engine, and then he does all clear and starts the left engine, and we move out pretty fast. Get going, because we check all the engine, the tacks and everything at the end of the runway. But also, when you're getting up a formation, if you got 20 planes in it, the 20th airplane doesn't get off the ground until you're up there circling around. And so the lead planes, they get out of there and get up in the air fast so everybody can get in the air. And Lee was good at that. And a lot of people, when they fly an airplane, they try and trim it too fast. If it's raising a little bit, and then through this, up and down, Lee would just little this, and then I'd see him a little this, and then a little bit of this, Pretty soon he had the airplane trimmed. He didn't touch it hardly, it just flew, and it was just a great flyer. I was lucky that I got him to instruct me in a B-25, and I learned a lot from him, and I'm glad I did learn from him, because I had an engine failure on takeoff with a full load of bombs. Ooh. And no problem at all with that B-25. I just got over there. We were right on the ocean. I dropped my bombs and went into my single engine procedure, and it flew on one engine just like did on two. It was a wonderful airplane. I miss that airplane. Now that I'm talking about it, I hadn't even thought about it for a while, but it was.
So how long were you there in Corsica before you flew your first mission?
About 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. We got going pretty fast. And things at that moment were pretty easy. We weren't catching a lot of flack when we went. However, the first mission I was on we were bombing German troops over at Rimini that was on the east coast of Italy. And so we'd fly clear across Italy to get to them. And we lost my first friend. He was my roommate, tent mate, and he was shot down there. And I heard he was killed. I don't know. We got on the train together here in L.A. We went to every school together, and we ended up in a tent, and in Corsica together. He was a great guy. And I hope he got out. Somebody told me they thought the Germans picked him up, but I don't know. But it was a case of hardly any flak there. And so I flew 3 missions with Lee to there. And in fact, we even had a British general with us because we were bombing for helping them. But we flew across Italy again, and I thought we was going to Rimini, and Lee didn't tell me about it. We got there and we turned north and went up the Adriatic and went in by what's the Italian place with all the water around it?
Venice.
Huh?
Venice.
Yeah, we hit an oil dump there. That thing went sky high. Lee was singing, man, that thing really went up. But we had two formations that day, bombing them, and then we snuck up the Adriatic because we were in enemy territory all the way. And that was a really nice maneuver that day. But we would, I started hearing about friends of mine. There was 50 of us went over, and they split us between the 3 groups on Corsica. And each group had 4 squadrons. And then I started hearing about, I got a friend here who went down, I got a friend there who went down. And we were still pretty good with my bunch. And then all at once, we had one of them, he was quite a tough guy in school and over here, but he was a big, husky guy. And anyway, he came back from a mission, and the pilot asked him for the wheels, and he looked over, and the guy was drawing lines and erasing them. He lost it. And the last I seen of him when I was in the hospital on Corsica was he was still drawing lines and erasing them. And then we had another boy that we don't know what the hell happened. You turned left because the ocean was there. If you turned right, there was the mountain, He turned right, hit a mountain for some reason or other. And that was our first month. Was our we got shot up. We had the nose knocked out of our plane twice, where the plexiglass comes off, and the gunner, the front gunner, he looks like he got measles after that. All that shaft goes in him, and we'd take some holes or something, but nothing just spectacular, which was making us all feel good, And then we started getting a little tougher and a little tougher again, and our first mission into Po Valley. That's the elite of Italy, is the Po Valley. And from the Po Valley, you go right into Brenner Pass, out of Brenner Pass into Europe. And when somebody comes over from the United States, we usually would fly down to Naples and pick them up. We'd bring them out by boat, you know. So I flew to Naples and picked up this guy. Reese was his name, Reese or Reed. And there was two other guys too. And he hit my squadron, so I kind of got to know him, you know, and he wanted to be friends, you know, and we ate together. And he kept saying, golly, when do I go on a mission? When do I go on a mission? I said, you'll get on a mission. You get on a mission. Well, the Po Valley came up, and I was about 19th or 20th ship back. So I was sitting there leaning up against my nose wheel waiting for everybody to get off. And I see Lee go by, and then I see it was Reese. It was his first mission. He was waving at me. He was in a plane on the left wing of Lee. And he was the happiest guy in the world, you know. And 40 minutes later, I seen him blowed into little bits. Little tiny bits. Him and Lieutenant Frank. I'd flown with him. He was a nice guy too. And Lee thought it, you know, they were going to knock him out of there. And about that time, Lee took a shot, and then he got hit again, and they had to get out of their plane. And we were all catching hell then. And I think everybody got some holes. But the worst thing was the fact that Reese wanted to fly so bad on a mission, you know, that he got it, and it just was a long time to do it.
Was he shot down by another aircraft, or was he shot down by ground fire?
By gunfire. They put a shell right into the bombardier compartment. They hadn't even dropped the bombs yet, and it just exploded. Lee told me later on down here, after the war was over, a long time, that he thought they was going to knock him out of the air too, the concussion of it. And about that time, he got hit in the left engine. And then I heard Lee talking, and I tried to talk with him, and I was flying co-pilot for Hatzel. And Hatcher had asked me to fly with him. I flew with different guys all the time, learning to fly the thing. That Hatzel was getting a little stringy, you know, and wanted to know why I flew. Well, Hatzel lost him. I mean, we were way over red line coming out of there. We didn't drop our bombs or nothing, which has upset me. We go that far, we lost men, and we don't drop the bombs, you know. It just really upset me bad. And Hatzel went to rest camp right after that. But I think Reese bothered me more than anybody getting killed is the fact he wanted to go so bad, and he was so happy, waving at me and everything, and you know, and bingo, he got his wish, and wasn't very nice, but it was only about 2 weeks after this all happened, Lee was shot down, taken prisoner of war, and I was due. Hatcher told me that morning at Chow that he wanted me to fly to Naples, pick up something. I can't remember what it was, people or equipment or something. And I got them kind of flights, so I got more first pilot time and got more time in the airplane, and that's what I wanted. And what was I going? Oh, anyway, the kid next to me was his tent mate, and my tent. He took care of his tent, and I took care of my tent. The guys in it didn't were slobs. You know, we put floors in it. You know, we went to the lumber yard up there and give the guy cigarettes and wine and everything else. And we had floors in our tent. And anyway, he come in and he said, it rained and they called a mission off. And he says, can't think of the guy's name. It's kind of funny. He got a weapons carrier to go pick up the cameras and out of the airplanes. The airplanes were about 5 miles away on a strip from a bivouac area. You didn't want to be close to the airport. So I says, well, okay, I'll go. We'll pick up some wood, he says. And we were the ones that got wood off.
And, you used to collect the driftwood, right?
Huh?
You used to collect the driftwood.
Yeah,
on the beach?
driftwood. There's all kinds of driftwood there, and we had a big pile down there. And like I say, me and this kid from Wisconsin, I can't think of his name. He took care of his tent, and I took care of my tent. But anyway, we were just going out the front gate when Hatcher hollered at, and he said, where are you going? He said, no, Ron's flying to Naples. Oh, we'll be back by then. We'll be back in just a short while. And so we went down and got the cameras. We come back and loaded the driftwood on. And I got over and I sat to the left of the guy driving. I can't think of his name. He's from Wisconsin. I can't remember the name. And I was sitting with my butt on the pad of the back bed of the thing. And he backed it up and backed one wheel off, and we hit a landmine. And the next thing I knew, I was looking down at all my bones sticking out of my leg. This leg, was turned off that way. And I see them not moving, and I was quite a ways from them. I was amazed how far. So I started piling sand around my leg, trying to get it straight and see that I wasn't bleeding to death, and finally my back just gave out, I couldn't sit up anymore. About this time they came to, and Baldwin was this guy's name, and he was driving, and it just tore his arm right off his shoulder. He couldn't let go of the steering wheel fast enough. It just ripped his leg out. And the other guy was Captain, what the hell was his name? Funny name. He had a broken rib. He should have went for help, He had nothing wrong with him. Baldwin takes off going for help. And he was passed out, and when he fell, somebody from the tower at the strip was looking that way and seen him. They went down there and they found out what it was. So then pretty soon, and I had to flag everybody off, because I had 2 mines sitting out here. It wasn't exploded. And I didn't know where the mines were at. To tell them, cool it for a little bit. And so the first guy that got to me, he threw up. And then he kind of got calmed down and did something to me. I don't know what it was, but then the doctor got there, and they finally got this stuff all pulled straight, and then they pulled it apart, and stuff. And then I spent the rest of the day getting to northern Corsica and going from one stop to the next stop to where I was taken to, where I was there until they operated on me, and which was about 2 months later, and I ended up in a plaster cast from here down both legs, because with the femur, and I had a femur broken, and they got to immobilize your hips and everything. And the one thing I had out of that hospital was I nursed Miss Daly. And I wasn't a very good patient the first couple of days, And she says, I'm going to have to straighten you out. So I said, well, try me. And so we got to be the best of friends. And one day she says, you're going to have a haircut. And I said, how the hell can I get a haircut? I can't sit up. And she said, we're going to put the guy on the deck underneath you, let him cut your hair. And my tent had no light or no heat in it. And one day, I think it was probably one of her boyfriends, he was a colonel, come down there, and I heard her say something to him. I heard him holler at somebody. And man, I had a drop cord in that thing so fast. I think they ran it from Chicago to there. They just shut that guy up. And then the next thing she did was had a heater put in, they put coal in it or whatever the hell they could put it. And then finally, I got another patient next to me, and it was one of the doctors that had taken care of me on the way up there. And he was driving up there that night and had a wreck and laid there all night long, and he pinched a nerve. They flew him right out of there because he had a nerve damage. And then I got 3 more patients in the room with me, or in the tent with me. That those nurses and those doctors are something else, working under the most horrible position, And they should have not did this operation there. They flew a guy in from Italy to help. I can't think of his name. The guy that did my leg become president of the Orthopedic Association of the United States. And I had trouble in my leg, and I went to a doctor there in Arcadia, California. And he says, who did this? And I told him, oh, God, he's a big shot now. I said, well, he was just a guy working in a tent hospital. So he says, I'm going to take a picture and send it to him. And he wrote on there, couldn't you do a better job than this? And I'd like to see whatchamacallit's name, but her face when you see that. But Miss Daly straightened me out, and I don't know why I never tried to keep track of her, but she took me down to in ambulance down to the Strip, and they flew me off. It was raining like hell, and flew me to Naples. And after they operated on me, and we both were crying like babies. And war does different things to you. When I got to Naples, the ground forces had a big push. And going in over the mountains into the Po Valley. And the hallways were beds along the side with somebody in them. They didn't have rooms for them. And it must have been a room big as this at that end. And we were just solid beds in there. And nurses working on us, you know. They just room to get in between us. And you just don't know what a war is until you get to one of them places. And on Corsica, I was the worst casualty there, so I didn't see the mess that these other guys were. And some of them just horrible, stomachs shot out, whatever. And all them nurses there were great, and then we, it was right after the first of the year, we spent Christmas in Naples. We took a hospital boat to Charleston, North Carolina, and then went by train to Vancouver, Washington. Vancouver, Washington was an orthopedic hospital. And while we was in North Carolina, we had a kid that was a bombardier, and he was on a mission, not with our outfit, he was flying in 24s, I think, for the 15th Air Force. And they got hit, and he bailed out over Yugoslavia. And he landed in a tree of some sort. We was always kidding him about it, you know, there's a flower growing in your head. You're going to have a walnut or something. And he was just a little bit, you know, retarded at the moment, you know. And anyway, he came to see me, but we each got a room there at Charleston, South Carolina. So he came over to see how I was, and all at once I see both big shots walking in, you know. What the hell is this? Oh, my, Secretary of War Simpson. And he come in and shook hands and talked, and he asked his kid where he was from, and he told him he was from Rhode Island. And Secretary of War Simpson said, well, I could take a platoon of men up there and take that. It made the kid mad. So Simpson then noticed, you know, that he was just a little bit from this bump on the head, you know. But there's always little things that happen once in a while that make war a little funnier than the other things. But Vancouver was a very nice hospital, and they got me out of bed finally, and got me to town. I remember the nurses dressing me the first day I'm going to town. Boy, you'll be knocking them dead, you know, and I figured I would. But I got to town, and all at once I ran out of gas. Flagged a taxi and went back to the hospital, and the nurses said, well, here he comes. And, but then I went from there I was down to Santa Ana for 6 months. I spent 14 months in the hospital. And when I got out, I couldn't do my job. I worked for the railroad. And so I got a parking lot because I couldn't do much with my leg. And I lived in Monrovia and right close to Chantry Flats. So I started going up to Chantry Flats and walking the trails and building up my legs. And I really liked that. And I used to go to Mount Wilson and all over. I could just hike a hole in the ground. And got my legs going again.
What year?
Yeah, I had 15 missions, and I forget what the hours were. I got, of course, a Purple Heart, and I got 6 air medals.
What were the air medals for?
And, well, you did something during a mission that was a little above what you should have done or something. Or they thought you did, Who knows? No, they left the B-25s alone. Now, they used to shoot up the 24s because they didn't have the gunpowder, but we could fly formation real close on 25s, and we had a lot of guns. And they didn't want to come. They were just like running at a battleship, So they stayed completely away from us. It was a wonderful airplane, B-25 was. I mean, in more ways than one. I mean, the protection you had with the amount of firepower you had in it, and also the plane was very, very secure, very rugged, and it was fun to fly. No, we got ack-ack for every mission, but it wouldn't be. They weren't very accurate sometimes, But we got hold a lot of times, And I had the nose blown out twice, and didn't hurt anybody. And in fact, we laughed like the devil at the guy. He got hit. And I forget who I was flying co-pilot for. Anyways, I'm here, and I said, get the hell back. You had to crawl underneath the pilot and co-pilot, B-25, I said, get the hell out of here so we see what you do, what you heard. And he come out, and we just looked like he had the measles, So we kind of choused him all the way, but getting excited about the measles. But when we landed, I went to look at my seat, and I looked down. There's a hole about like that went alongside of me, and it could have hit 100 things coming in through the front of the airplane that would have downed us, It could have fuel line, electric line, whatever, or it could have hit me, blew my foot off, So it wasn't as funny as I thought, And you had this, so all the time you get a little flack, and some of the guys were good, and the Po Valley were very good, and I left there before we started bombing the Brenner Pass, and the 12th Air Force did that with the B-25s. And they caught, holy hell. They had 544 ack-ack guns But they want to keep the Brenner Pass open. The minute we closed it, they were done in Italy, you know. And we lost a lot of men there after I left. A lot of my friends got it there. In fact, when I was in South Carolina waiting for an assignment at the time, a fellow, McPherson was his name, and his wife came down to stay with him. And the three of us got to be friends. And we just have a big time going partying and stuff, you know. And Mac was a funny guy anyway. And when we got to the Corsica, we got split up. He got to the north end of the island, and I was at the south end. But the hospital was on the north end, so Mac got to see me a lot while I was in the hospital. And he'd write his wife, and his wife would call my mother and all that stuff, you know. And Mac was a funny guy, a lot of fun. And anyway, when I had the pulleys on my leg, you know, you got pulleys on it first, holding the leg apart before they ever start working on it. And once in a while they just slip, you know, and wango. Boy, they just have to knock you out real fast and get up in there and do this. And Mac got mad when hell he's going to whip the doctor. He thought he was doing something to me, you know. But anyway, Mac was there the morning I left to go to Naples. And 2 weeks later I get a letter from my mom that he was dead. And his wife used to call my mom would call her, you know. And they went down in Italy, and the Italians buried him before the Germans got to him. And as far as I know, I heard this story of, you get these stories, you know, you don't know how true they are. And I don't know whether it was Max, well, his wife remarried later on in life, which she should have done, but she did do. They went over there and seen where they were at. Where they moved them, they had a cemetery at Florence, Italy, and then we had one on Corsica. And there were a lot of people in either one of them, but the boys caught holy hell up the Brenner Pass. They're shooting down on top of them, you know, shooting down on them. But they finally knocked the Brenner Pass out. So I maybe missed some of the real heavy fighting. I don't know. I read it, there was after the war, they had a club started. I went to one or two meetings of it. One of them was out in Nevada, and one of them was down here, San Diego. And it was, you know, all those guys would get together every year, and they put out a magazine, you know, of different people and stuff, this and that. And they're still carrying that on, only we're all dead, you know. I should be dead. I should be dead, you know, 95. Why am I still alive? But the kids are keeping it going. Anyway, I was reading one of the articles, and it said the last we seen of D'Antoni was spinning in, and I thought, oh God. D'Antoni, we used to razz him. He wrote at least one letter, or sometimes two letters a day to his wife, and we used to kid him a lot. But he never got out of that. But anyway, I have a friend, and we got on I'm not a computer, he got on a computer, and we found out where D'Antoni did get out of that airplane. and was taken prisoner, and he died of cancer in Stockton. I knew he lived with Stockton, so then we went to taking on Stockton for that name, and he worked for a company out there until he died of cancer in 1979 or something. So I found a friend that wasn't really dead, which made you feel good, when you find one of them. I always wished I could have found Reese when he wasn't dead, or Mac, but Reese was the worst one. He was so happy to go on a goddamn mission, He just like a little kid waving a flag, oh God. No, it was intense. We were on Corsica, the island of Corsica, and we had a bivouac area up from the field. You didn't want to be on the field where they bombed the field, And before I got there, the guys had built a bar and a nice eating place, and we hired cooks from any place and cooked. And then the enlisted men had the same thing. And if we had a plane going down to Sardinia or someplace, there was a great place, market down there. So everybody would throw in money, enlisted men and everybody. And we'd come back with chickens, everything else from Sardinia, and then we'd have a big feed, But we had our own cooks. We hired cooks. And we had a little community there, and me and another guy, we built a shower. It worked pretty good. And it was, we had a lot of things. Some of us tried to make things easier instead of just setting them open, make things easier for you to be. No, I never. The only place I got was Naples. Very dirty town. Very, really, really dirty town. I was in other towns, but I was over to Foggia. There was a colonel who had a girlfriend over there in one of the hospitals, and I used to fly him over there, and I'd land at Foggia, and they'd send an ambulance down to pick him up, and I'd go back and get him 3 or 4 days. But I also had a brother-in-law in Foggia flying 51s. I just couldn't find him. Foggia was a big 15th Air Force headquarters, and just too big a place to find him. But I never could find him. No night flying.
How long were you actually overseas?
I got there in before the Southern France invasion, and then I left right after New Year's. I didn't last long. They didn't get their money's worth out of it. They shortened. They've been asking me to pay them.
So you were in the hospital longer than you were overseas?
Yeah, I was in the hospital for 14 months. I spent more time in the hospital than I did any place else. But they were working on this leg a lot, and it's all metal from here down, it splintered bones and pieces come off. I had to put pieces together, and they did a wonderful job. I've ridden horses and motorcycles and everything since I've been out. And
Yeah, when I first met you, you were in your 50s and didn't even limp.
Wow.
That I noticed.
yeah, when I built my leg up right away in the mountains there, as I was telling you, I knew they wasn't very good, and I kind of like walking anyway, and I like to be in the mountains, and so I knew them mountains around there like one of the ranges, you know, but they had a lot of trails in the mountains right out of Monrovia there, and you could walk 50, 60 miles on trails. And I'd walk up to Mount Wilson and have breakfast sometime. And then there was another guy halfway up Camp Ivy that he brought stuff in on horseback, and you could walk in there at night and get a steak dinner, or you could get breakfast, you know, and people would want to walk in and spend the evening, you know, in the mountains, you know. And but I used to walk up to Mount Wilson and get breakfast, and then it was about a 3-hour hike, you know, didn't push itself. I flew Stearman's down here, 29 Palms, and I flew BTs at Merced, and then I flew the S-10s down at Douglas, and that's the only planes I flew other than B-25. Now, since then, I've flown other Army airplanes. I've owned three Army airplanes. I've flown a twin engine and an AT-6 and a BT-6. It cost too much money to run them. But that's when I decided I didn't want to fly anymore. I'd rather race horses. But no, I do like flying. I wish I was able to fly. I wouldn't be able to fly now. Don't see good enough, but it's thrilling flying. But you know, you do what you can do. And, but I would have liked to have stayed in the Air Corps. In fact, I had planned on staying in. And Lee, he got out. He was, I got to tell you, Lee was taken prisoner of war in Italy, and they took him clear to Poland and put him in prison camp. And him and a guy escaped from prison camp and walked 9 days. They slept in the daytime and ate potatoes, dug potatoes, and then slept in the daytime and walked at night. Took them 9 days to get out of there. Any time, you could have been shot. And this proves again what Lee Russell was made out of, you know, the guy that taught me how to fly. He's strictly all man. And Lee and this fella got together not too awful long ago, and I guess there was a lot of teary eyes, you know, because they could have any time been shot for trying to escape, and it was a tough trip, 9 days out of there, but Lee is that type of guy. Well, anyway, he got out of the service and he flew for United. And he was flying DC-3s, you know, in the Midwest there. And he didn't like that. So he went back to school. And Vietnam War or the Korean War come along, and he was called back in. So he just stayed. And he stayed till he got retired. He was a colonel when he retired. And he flew in the other war, too, after Korea. What
Vietnam.
Yeah, the big war. But he flew, and then he instructed in the B-17, I think, bomber. He said that's a beautiful airplane. I've never seen one, but he said that was really an airplane. He says that's the only thing that was better than a B-25. But Lee, that's where he needs to be, is flying, because he's good at it, and he likes flying, and I just wish I could see him more often. I don't get to see him hardly at all. I want to get a hold of his daughter. She's been trying to get a hold of him. If something's wrong, I don't know what. But I got to somehow get up and see him. I don't know, I probably talked too much already. I get going about this stuff and the guys I knew, and well, I did enjoy this experience, and I liked it. I didn't see but one guy that I didn't like in the Army. One guy. And that's the guy that was drawing the lines and erasing them. Because he was a big bully. And he was always picking on somebody around there. And he wasn't very brave. But
So how you?
I don't particularly like wars, because you lose too many friends. Yeah, that's thanks for listening to my mouth run off. I'm like an old clock with a broken spring.